one thing for sure, keep an open mind to whatever this Infosomatics is about, because it's common sense about spirituality. It shows the physics behind spirituality. It has a very practical approach to everything that happens to us, and offers practical techniques that can help not just to reach the enlightenment or the awakening. It's more of a good comparison that I usually do is the difference between Soviets and the West during the Cold War was one of very good examples. During the race to the moon, to the space, after the first, Gagarin went to the space first, and then, the United States went to the moon first. And then they figure out that they cannot use pens in space because, it's vacuum, so, they can't. It's not going to work. So what happened was NASA spent like $20 million on creating this pen that will work in vacuum, when Soviets just started to write with a pencil. So, just to basically, and to give you a little bit of history of what behind Infosomatics. It's basically a lot of work, as Diamantino mentioned, from a group of scientists in Saint Petersburg and the Institute of Social Ecology, International Institute of Social Ecology, that mainly conducts research in how human brain interacts on level of consciousness. It gives a model of energy informational world that can be used in practice, and then can put together astrology, numerology, energy healing, channeling, and explain how how all these things actually work using language that is easy to understand, using physics, quantum physics, torsion physics behind it, and some models you will see today. A lot of this material is you can find on the LifeScript Doctor website. There is a 6-hour free webinar there, and I just finished with a self-help guide book as well, which kind of explains in more details and gives a lot more techniques that even if I wanted to, I won't be able to give all the materials. Last time I checked, it was 163-hour videos from the seminars. So and we're going to have an hour and a half today, talk a bit about how all these things work. So yeah, Infosomatics basically stands, the two words that create Infosomatics, information and somatics. Information being everything that is around us. So it's not only just the physical body that we all know so much about and we love so much about and we're trying to take care of it so much. It's everything that's around, including our physical body. It's energy, information, and physical forms. And we'll talk about levels, or some of you, if you watched the short video on YouTube, I gave a little explanation of what are the levels of consciousness in the model. Because those levels also, they don't go against any religion, any beliefs in a way. I mean, it gives the physics behind it. So. It can explain, different frequency of different religions as well. And somatics is basically, our body. So how information can influence our body. Because one of the main things that research discovered was that certain visualizations or information has impact on human brain. The history behind it was that Gubanov was a part of a team during the Soviet times when they tried to discover all the paranormal activities, and there are all kinds of schools. I mean, I know in the West there are several of them in Soviet, can be dated back in the Soviet era. Because in 1991, when the Berlin Wall collapsed, and I was still a kid, but I remember there was this huge mass of people in the stadiums with people with extrasensory abilities healing them, and it was like, I'm not sure anywhere else was happening, but that was like, and you can actually, if you find on YouTube, you can look for Kashpirovsky or some other names that, if you ask me, I will just tell you what to look for. You will literally see stadiums of people trying to find, answers to the questions that they're looking for, or heal mainly. Because 70 years, religion or any spiritual things was prohibited during Soviet Union. So all of that had to come out, and 90s was crazy. healers, channelers, all this, which is still kind of happening. In Saint Petersburg was kind of, and still is, like a mecca for esoteric and spiritual teachings. However, as I mentioned before, Slavic, Russians, Soviets, much more practical to those things. Because when you see, like in the West, in the States, you have people who channel, and they're out there in the news and they're trying to, save the world and all this kind of stuff. When Soviets more be like, okay, how can we use it in practice? How all of this, and there are lots of interesting books that are available in Russian, but they're like, okay, the group of people got together, okay, channeling, does it work? Like, let's see if we can combine it with some physics. Okay, does this work? Does this work? And basically, as a science, you have a theory and then you test it in practice. Because practice is the sole criteria for testing the truth. Many things were tested in practice, and these techniques and visualization techniques that we're going to talk about do work. Because basically, I just might start as well, if you can think of our life as a point in time, like one point, and you have a wave of information, which is basically, as I say in the video, it's a dense spirituality. It's something even beyond energy, because energy is, we can feel it, we can sense it. It's we might have we'll talk a little bit more about human aura and energy centers, chakras, as in esoteric literature, and how these things relate. Because many people would go for energy healing, right? Or like, oh, my chakra is broken, or this kind of stuff, But the fact is, the reason why you're lacking energy